If your week was half as busy as mine, chances are that you may have missed the news. Well, this is the show that brings you up to speed with the top news stories and interviews featured on ENCA over the past 7 days. I'm Heidi Giokos. Welcome to Week in One. Shots fired as residents at the Oasis farm in Cape Town resist action by city authorities clamping down on illegal connections. Dr. Nanda Makudumana denied bail in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court this week. And the latest on the Senzo Mayua murder trial. The City of Cape Town says it isn't opposed to electrifying informal settlements, but only if it's done within the confines of the law and with the necessary approval. In the previous financial year, it successfully supplied electricity to more than 2,000 informal houses across the metro. This week, it confiscated 2 truckloads of stolen cables used for illegal connections in Oasis Farm, resulting in a tense standoff with residents. ENCA's Nobesuthu Hejana reports.
Hey! They don't want to help us. They don't want to help us. They can break us off like this. That's why we steal electricity.
I have a patient inside that's on medication. Do they care about that? I have a business to run. My chicks passed away. My fishes die. My plants is dead. And all of my stock is rotten.
These residents of Oasis Farm in Philippi say authorities are refusing to electrify their homes, hence they've decided to steal power. When officials attempted to disconnect the area, residents fought back until backup was called, which led to a standoff between officials and angry residents fighting to keep the cables.
So even here with Beverly Van Rienen, I've been negotiating with this lady. She's been quite kind towards us, but there has been no delivery. Like everybody say, please don't burn the road. I risked my life to go into Chikalo to go speak to the EFF, to stay off the road so we can have a amicable, like you want today, a settlement, but at the end of the day, it's not happening. We've gone through a winter without electricity.
I'm here for 20 years now. And since that 20 years, I never had power. It's only a few years now that we steal electricity. But how do they assist us? Many times they come, they take the cables, they shoot at us, then they go.
Lost the cables! Lost the cables! Lost the cables!
These cables, in fact, were illegally connected to the City of Cape Town's connecting point. And so, it's for me important that we send a very strong and clear message that illegal connections is not okay.
Van Rienen says the city will continue fighting to remove illegal connections because it lost over 4 million rand from cable theft, vandalism and illegal connection during the second quarter of this year.
These thugs belong behind bars because they are literally stealing not only from government, but they are stealing from their own citizens.
Local authorities say while these operations are successful, they rely on communities to keep reporting illegal connections. Nobesuthu Hejana, Cape Town.
The Senzo Mayua murder trial has been postponed to October to give the defense enough time to comb through hundreds of photographs found on the accused's phones. The cross-examination of police officer Sizwe Zungu also continued this week. Zungu testified that he was with the 5 men at a hostel the night Mayua was shot and killed. ENCA senior reporter Slindelo Masikane has more.
Court proceedings resumed with Judge Rata Mokgwatleng being furnished with the results of a medical examination that was done on accused 5, Fiso Butlenduli, who told the court that he wasn't feeling well on Tuesday.
He has a stable medical condition that does not require admission and was discharged with treatment. Signed by Dr. Cheng, medicine minister, medical consultant, okay?
Cross-examination of Constable Sizwe Zungu then proceeded. Advocate Charles Mnisi, who represents accused 3, Mthobisi Mncube, began to scrutinize Zungu's evidence in chief, where he identifies the accused from selected photographs which were downloaded from Mncube's phone.
Mr. Zungu, your explanation is just wishy-washy because you specifically stated in your evidence in chief that you went out with accused number, and I'm not arguing with you, with accused number 2 and number 3, and with 5 in the vehicle. Now in cross-examination, you mentioned a gentleman called Mtogo and accused number 3, Mtogo, who is not before court, and you also 5 in the vehicle. You don't speak about accused number 2.
My evidence is not confusing.
Thank you.
After a short adjournment, the defense requested to have all the photographs from 6 phones that were confiscated from their clients.
I am hamstrung to proceed with my cross-examination without further information relating to the photos.
My cross-examination is also going to be central to the photo album exhibit S. Hence, we need the disc. Thank you.
It will be unfair and prejudicial to proceed with the trial when the state has not and has failed to supply us with all information, my lord.
My lord, similarly, my instructions are that from both accused number 1 and 2, 2 phones each were confiscated from them, my lord.
2-2.
2-2.
The downloads have just been completed. We'll be handing the downloads to the defense during recess. So 2 and 5 phones were confiscated and downloaded.
Court proceedings are expected to resume on Thursday. Slindelo Masigane, Pretoria.
Nandipa Magudumana's fight for freedom will be an uphill battle. That's according to legal experts who believe she will have a tough time trying to convince the higher court to release her on bail. The Bloemfontein Magistrates Court denied her application, labelling her a flight risk. ENCA senior reporter Slindelo Masigane has more.
The evidence indicates that she does not really need a passport of her own to leave the borders of this country, but she crossed a few borders with accused number 5. It's a good indication that she has the necessary means, the know-how to leave the country.
Magistrate Estelle Delanga didn't mince her words when delivering judgment in Nandipa Magudumana's bail application. Delanga believes there are no bail conditions that could be placed on Magudumana to ensure she doesn't evade justice. So it's back to the drawing board for Magudumana's legal team. But what are her options?
You have an automatic right of appeal against a bail refusal. All you have to do is you have to file your notice of appeal, and then the matter will be enrolled in the High Court before a single judge within a reasonable time, and she would probably be unwise to not pursue that. You know, the accused still has the constitutional right to exhaust all her remedies, and that means she can go all the way to the Concord if she wishes to.
I find that the applicant is a definite flight risk, and that no bail condition will assist under the circumstances to limit this risk.
One legal expert believes Magudumana's legal team could have done more to convince the court otherwise.
She was supposed to actually volunteer some solutions as to how the court can ensure that she remains in South Africa. And I mean, I've seen hardened criminals that they have this ankle bracelets or ankle taps that is actually like a monitor. There is measures. I disagree with the magistrate in where she's saying there's not other conditions that can be set, and that's one of the things that they can put her under house arrest for the remainder of this period, where she has to sign in the morning, in the afternoon, and even in the evening. So it means that you have got limited time to actually move, plus the ankle brace. Then there is conditions to restrain her from moving.
Whenever she appeared before me, she appeared to be well groomed and in a good state of health. I'm confident that all her reasonable needs are met during her period of detention. Mr. Bester will be transported to and from court for the duration of the trial. By allowing the applicant to go out on bail will enable her to, yet again, try to facilitate another escape if she wants to.
What are Magudumana's prospects of success in the higher courts?
The court then would have to ask itself in High Court whether is she a flight risk or not. And if it's affirmative that she's a flight risk, she won't get bail at the High Court. The other option, the third option that I was thinking of was that after some months or weeks, she can apply for what we call a bail on new facts.
Her legal team has indicated that it's still studying the judgment and hasn't ruled out the possibility of filing for leave to appeal. Slinda Lomasigane, Bloemfontein in the Free State.
Shortly after the break, we feature some of the big interviews done by our anchors this week. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Heidi Giokos. Shortly after the news broke that Nandipa Magudumana has been denied bail, our shows followed up. ENCA anchor Tumelo Mototwane spoke to legal expert Mpumelelo Zikalala.
And I mean, denied bail for being a flight risk. Of course, Magistrate Estelle DeLange is saying that not even bail conditions could actually limit the risk of her trying to either evade trial or escape again, or perhaps even facilitate another escape for Thabo Bester. Expected?
I would say partly so, but not in the manner in which it was done today. I would have expected that maybe more stringent conditions could have been added, and not in the manner in which the judgment then came out. You see, you must be very careful of, in certain judgments of this nature, you mustn't pronounce on the merits of the matter, because this is not what you've been asked to do. So if you're going to delve into the merits and say you're indeed guilty, you participated in this particular act, the mere fact that you are found outside the country without listening to evidence, it means that you have the ability and the intention to do so. It's something in which are perfect or fatal grounds in terms of an appeal if you want to move the matter to the High Court at a later stage. I would find 3 or even 4 grounds in which, if she were to file an appeal, there's certainly the court will be able to look at. The first one being that if you are going to make insinuations and pronouncement based on the kidnapping that has been done, there's no evidence that it has been led to that. You can't do that as a magistrate. That's a fatal ground for appeal, of course, the Rubicon. Secondly, the non-disclosure of the defense is certainly not something which is there. She did disclose the defense, and she stated that when the time is right and when the evidence has been led, I will then provide my defense later. Remember, for purposes of bail, we are not looking at the merits or the demerits of the matter. We're simply saying, are you a perfect candidate to be released? Is it in the interest of justice? If we send you outside, they are going to come back on a certain date. And Section 6 is very prescriptive in terms of the things that are there. And then thirdly, drawing influences and even creating scenarios of saying that Mr. Thabo Bester is going to be provided or transported from prison to court, you may then be able to interfere based on that. That's not something that you ought to do as a magistrate. You are drawing inferences of evidence that has not been led to you, and you can't preside over things that have not been provided to you. It's a ground of saying to the High Court judges, listen to this particular individual. They've gone beyond and looking at what the law is actually saying, and they're now attacking me as an individual. What you're there to do is look at the likelihood and check other preventive measures that you could employ to prevent that likelihood from taking place. In this case, I so believe that there was. Grant her bail and make sure that there are stringent measures that she needs to comply with. Her passport must come back. She can even report on a daily basis at the nearest police station and not leave the magisterial district in which she's going to be staying in. Those type of measures are there. What you can't whisk away, by the way, her right to innocence. She's still innocent up until proven guilty, and for now, we do not have evidence that points to her being guilty. She may find at a later stage that she has a principal reason, a principal defense on why she engaged in those type of things, and you can't pronounce and make certain pronouncement during bail applications on things which evidence is going to be led at a later stage on.
Former President Jacob Zuma has lost his second appeal application. He applied for leave to appeal the rejection of his bid to privately prosecute President Cyril Ramaphosa. But this was denied by the High Court in Johannesburg. ENCA anchor Baron Hafke discussed the matter with constitutional law expert Paul Hoffman.
The significance of the High Court's unanimous dismissal of Mr. Zuma's attempted challenge, and these two dismissals now, or he's the second blow for him.
Yes, I see that every time he asks for leave to appeal, he is being knocked back by full benches that are not interested in his prospects of success on appeal. In fact, they cannot see any prospects of success, and as a consequence of that, they have decided not to give him leave to appeal. But we must remember that Mr. Zuma is an indefatigable litigant, and that his strategy is not necessarily to win the cases that he brings, but to string out the process as far and as long as possible. So in both of these matters where he has had setbacks in the last few days, he is entitled to approach the Supreme Court of Appeal. And if the Supreme Court of Appeal also gives him cold comfort, he could seek to get the matter ventilated, or both matters ventilated in the Constitutional Court. I do not believe he'll have any success in either of those two venues, and that essentially means that Mr. Downer can get on with his prosecution of Zuma, and the president need no longer worry that he has been charged in a private prosecution for a crime that doesn't exist and that the courts have been unable to identify. So more uphill for Team Zuma is the short answer to your question.
South Africans have been on a roller coaster ride with the country's electricity supply, or lack thereof, with endless breakdowns and government insisting that higher stages of blackouts are a necessary evil. There may not be light at the end of this tunnel for a while. ENCA anchor Gareth Edwards spoke to energy expert Jose Moleshe about this.
We'll say hello to you, and you called this one. When the weather is cold, we're going to go back into worse stages of blackouts, and here we are, stage 6. You can't be surprised, Jose. Morning.
Yes, I think every analyst will tell you that if there's an increase in the demand due to a cold weather, then that will affect the system because supply is constrained. So no one is surprised when that happens. We still continue to have problems.
But help me understand then, what do you make of this planned and unplanned maintenance, which we've been talking about for years now? Yes, during winter you can understand sustained cold temperatures, but it was getting warmer. We had a quick cold snap, and we're back into stage 6. We've got a very precarious power grid, don't we? It's very worrying.
Yes, it's not due only to the cold. It's also the fact that you have power plants that are out because of breakdowns that are not predicted. And then you have planned maintenance. Typically, it's increased during the summer periods because the demand is expected to be lower. So you increase your maintenance. So all of those things combined, you still have the units that Kusile is not back on stream. You have the constraint with Medupi unit that's also not back. You have Kubek that is not available. The renewable energy IPP procurement program was supposed to add additional capacities, also not been that successful. And so all of these things, or those things combined, are unfortunately causing the challenge.
Coming up, EFF leader Julius Malema makes an appearance in the East London Magistrates Court for firing a firearm in public during the EFF's 5th birthday celebrations in 2018. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Heidi Giokos. Loone Shocks have become a necessary evil for hundreds of families who have yet to be paid their monthly social grant. While Postbank maintains that the glitches that hit the system last week have been resolved, the reality on the ground is far different. ENCA reporter Hlonium Mkulu spoke to one family this week about the tough decisions they've had to make to survive.
Yvonne Molefe was hopeful that Monday would be the day. But after a week of being sent between retailers and banks to access her SASSA grant money, it was another futile morning of queues for Molefe and her daughter.
So, tswile senka tsoka 4 o'clock, ka fihla shawela ka 5 o'clock. Ga uba le teng tšhelete tengwe ka di ga re fihla shawela tšhelete ha iyo.
With no money and a home to take care of, the family has been forced into a life of debt.
Disappoint.
Molefe is now stuck in a series of moving one step forward and a few steps back at the mercy of ruthless loan sharks who charge a steep fee for their financial assistance.
gore di patala kae ke bothata fela se ha o kile 100 o khutsisa ile 150 pe ba kenya bo 50 rand and bo machonisa bantu ba tena ka gore ha o sa ipatale jwalo still ba ntse ba kenya interest jwalo bona re tšhelete ya hodimo and ha o e gola jwale o setse o isa go machonisa jwale wa tshwana understand how o sa gola because go isa ludimo re ka se dile re re ha re no ja ke.
As they look for ways to make ends meet, this Soweto family will hope for better luck when they return to the queue on Wednesday. Hlonim Timkulu, Soweto.
Over 900 people have been arrested during the police's Operation Chanela in Florida and Roodepoort in Johannesburg on Thursday. Shacks allegedly belonging to Zamazamas were raided and illegal mining equipment was confiscated. ENCA's Bafedile Moerane was there.
It's a hive of activity on the streets of Florida and Roodepoort. The men and women in blue are out to enforce law and order and started with a search and seize roadblock. Hundreds of arrests were made and dozens of illegal immigrants were nabbed. Violent crime is increasing in the area.
There are challenges in terms of contact crimes or murders, property-related, theft of motor vehicle, theft out of motor vehicle, and of course car hijackings. As you have alluded on your introduction, that illegal mining, it is indeed a problem.
Officers paused on residential areas where illegal mining is on the rise. Illegal mining shafts near Flehof and the Jerusalem informal settlements were raided, but alleged the Zamazamas managed to escape.
Last night up until this morning, we managed to collect 912 suspects arrested. Out of 912, there's 155 gender-based violence. Further than that, for these past 7 days, with the courts, because we have to give a reflection as to say, is there outcome relating to our cases. We had a total of 314 years imprisonment. Out of that, we're having 13 life sentences.
Over 60 undocumented foreign nationals were arrested. Police, meanwhile, say they will continue the fight against the scourge of illegal mining. Bafedile Moerane, Florida.
Justice delayed is justice denied. This was Economic Freedom Fighters leader Julius Malema's response to Magistrate Toinette Olivier, arriving an hour late for his trial at East London Magistrates Court. Malema and co-accused Adrian Snyman are charged with being in unlawful possession of a firearm and ammunition and firing live rounds in front of a packed crowd in 2018. ENCA's Ronald Masinda has more.
EFF leader Julius Malema was left fuming in court after there were more delays in his trial. He blames Magistrate Toinette Olivier for causing the unnecessary delays.
No one must disrespect us like that. No one. No magistrate, no prosecutor must disrespect us like that, and then we keep quiet. She has never been early to any court. She says, comes at 12, we come at 12, she's never here. She's never here. We must not talk because we're scared to go to jail or being disrespected. It can't be. We have rights, and our rights must be respected. It's a load shedding. We're starting at 11. It doesn't matter what time you start. You start at 1, you start at 2. She's going to be late.
The trial was expected to start at 11 o'clock on Wednesday morning. The late start was due to load shedding. The magistrate says the delay on her side was not done intentionally.
Ended an invitation for a discussion in chambers from the state and the defense. I waited in vain, and I was told 10 minutes ago that such request was declined by the defense. That is why I'm only entering now.
AfriForum opened the case against Malema and co-accused Adrian Snyman. The lobby group believes that the two should face the full might of the law for putting people's lives in danger.
When it comes to the sentencing, we sincerely hope that the judge takes all these charges into account, because these are very serious charges. If you just look at one of the charges, that of discharging a firearm in a public place without good reason, that alone warrants a 5-year prison sentence.
The trial will resume on Thursday, with the investigating officer expected to take the stand. Ronald Masinda, East London.
And that's it for this week's edition of Week in One. From myself and the fantastic team, have a great weekend.